Hey guys, welcome to The Sophisticated Scoundrel. Today I'm drinking some Tanjaku whiskey, per usual. And today we're going to talk about the need for, when you get to a certain point in your life, growing out of some of the things that your parents taught you. I've talked to a lot of men who are in their 20s and even 30s who still struggle with living under the shadow of some of the things that they were raised with, and it's hindering their dating life and relationships that they have with their friends, with people at work, and especially with women. And the biggest thing that these guys face is the ability to stand up for themselves and to trust their own instincts. Guys who grew up in a family where the mom was very controlling, or she was very domineering, or she wore the pants of the house, these are the guys who tend to struggle the most with this issue. They have a hard time standing up for themselves. They would rather be the nice guy. They would rather just agree with everybody. They're the yes men. They don't like to voice their own opinion. That's because they don't want to cause any conflict. They don't want to cause any friction. They're very conflict avoidant. Now, this happens a lot of the times because they simply have never seen a man put their foot down with anybody, whether it be a woman or another man. Most likely, their fathers were men who were exactly like this. They just said to their son, or showed their son through their actions, that, if your mother's complaining or if your mother's in a bad mood, just do whatever you can to placate her, to ease her bad attitude, instead of saying, hey, that's not okay, you can't do this, don't talk to me like that, don't treat me like that, I'm not going to put up with it. They have never ever seen a man do those things. And guys who grew up with a single mom, they have more than likely heard negative ideas and thoughts about men from their mother because of their father. Their father may have been a bad dude. He may have been very lazy, or just never did anything for them, and that very well could have been the case. So the mother, therefore, is feeding him these messages of, you need to do what a woman says. You need to listen to her, do all these things. Don't act like your father. Don't be a deadbeat like your father. All these different complaints they have. So the man will then internalize what he hears from his mom and says, okay, so I need to just listen to whatever a woman says. I need to do whatever she says. I always need to be there. I need to essentially give up myself to make sure I take care of her. So this is what, they hear, the message that they get from their mom. And so when they try to act this out, when they become a man, when they get into relationships, they realize, no matter what I do, the woman that I'm with is never satisfied, or she doesn't respect me. They keep dating women who treat them like this because, at the end of the day, this is all they really know. This is what they're comfortable with. They grew up with a family life that echoes now their dating life. So, like I said earlier, a guy really does have to become self-aware enough to realize, maybe some of the things that I saw that my father did, or things that my mother told me about men, I need to actually stop and think about, does this really work? Are the relationships that I'm getting into working because I'm listening to their advice, or the relationships that I'm getting into, or maybe I can't even get into a relationship because of their advice? You have to stop and ask yourself this question. Because when we grow up in a house like that, if your father's a weak father, chances are he grew up watching that from his father. So now when you become an adult, you're going to do the exact same thing. So you can see how this repeats itself. So if you feel that internally, like something's not right, no matter what I do, the women that I pick, they're always complaining or they disrespect me, that is your warning sign. And that's where you have to stop and ask yourself, okay, why am I doing this? Where did I learn this from? And that's where you have to take a look at your father. Was he like this? And did he get the same results that I'm getting? Or you have to look at your mother. Was she a woman who's so controlling, so domineering? And am I continuing to go out with women who are like this as well? And we don't have to like these things. Oftentimes, if you're a man who gets into those types of relationships with women who are like that, you're not going to like it. However, you're going to stay with it because that is all you know. We tend to stay in things that we're familiar with, not things that we like or we prefer. So I hope you guys can understand the difference between those two things. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. It's just, okay, so here's a great example. We all know women who continuously date men who are not good for them, right? They keep dating the same types of men. We call them bad boys, or just guys who are not good for relationships, but they keep doing it. Now, it's funny because if you tell this to a woman, a lot of the times women are going to shift the blame to the man, right? They're going to say, "Oh, he did this. If only he would do this. I love him so much. Why can't he see this?" Well, at that point, you have to stop and ask yourself, okay, if I keep getting into a relationship with all of these types of people who act the same way, then sure, what they're doing, it might not be good, but at the end of the day, I'm the one who keeps going towards that. So if you find yourself in that pattern, you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I doing that keeps bringing me into these situations? And then what can I do differently to stop? Right? But we don't want to do that. We keep going to those things because that's simply the dynamic that we're comfortable with. A woman who keeps going for these types of men who don't, who are just not good for her, she's probably she goes for that because she's used to it. She probably grew up in a very similar situation in her own household. And it's the same for men. Men who constantly date women who belittle them, who disrespect them. This is because they're used to that. They saw their mother do this to their father. They saw their father just bow down to whatever their mother said, or maybe it was a grandparent. Whoever it is that you were with when you grew up, whatever pattern you grew up with, that pattern has burned itself into your psyche very strongly. And so you have to do some major reversals of that. And that's the hard part. That's what takes a lot of time. But the first step in doing this is just to actually stop and ask yourself why you get into these patterns with people to begin with. And then secondly, okay, what can I now do differently so I can get myself out of it? So that is the whole reasoning about some of the things that we learn from our parents. We need to stop and ask if those things are legit, or if we actually need to question some of those things and then create a new way of doing things for ourselves as a man. Because once you get past a certain point, you do need to make decisions for yourself. And some of those decisions may go against things that you were taught, shown by your own parents. So I hope that helps. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to message me or write a comment down below. If you're looking for some personal one-on-one coaching, I have that available. Simply click on the links below and you can book a session with me. That's it for today. We will see you in the next one. Cheers.